After I discovered my wife's affair, I moved into a cabin and now strange things are happening. Hey everyone, I've been hesitant to post this, but after everything that's happened, I feel like I need to get it out there. Maybe writing it down will help me make sense of it all. Maybe someone out there has gone through something similar and can offer some insight. It all started a little over a month ago. I thought my life was pretty solid. I had a decent job, a stable relationship with my wife Elle, and a supportive family. Sure, there were the usual ups and downs, but nothing out of the ordinary. At least, that's what I thought. Then, everything came crashing down. I found out Elle was cheating on me. I stumbled upon some messages on her phone, explicit, intimate messages that left no room for doubt. She had been seeing someone else, and from the looks of it, it had been going on for months. My world shattered in an instant. The betrayal was like a knife to the heart, and I felt utterly lost. I confronted Elle, and she didn't even try to deny it. The look on her face was a mix of guilt and defiance, as if she was daring me to do something about it. I couldn't stand to be in the same room with her, so I left. I drove around aimlessly, trying to process what I had just discovered. Eventually, I ended up at a friend's place. They offered a sympathetic ear and a couch to crash on. Over the next few days, I tried to figure out what to do next. I knew I couldn't stay with Elle, but the thought of untangling our lives and starting over was overwhelming. I decided to get tested for SD discs, just to be safe, and I reached out to a therapist for help dealing with the emotional fallout. I also began the process of finding a new place to live. In the midst of all this, I thought I could at least count on my family for support. But when I told my parents about what had happened, their reaction was not what I expected. Instead of offering comfort, they sided with Elle. They accused me of driving her to cheat, of not being a good enough husband. The things my mother said to me were cruel and cutting, and I knew I couldn't have a relationship with them anymore. It was like losing my family all over again. A few friends stood by me, but I felt so isolated, so alone. The one person who had been a constant in my life had betrayed me, and the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally had turned their backs on me. I was adrift with no anchor to hold on to. I decided to move into a refurbished cabin on the outskirts of the city. It was secluded, a place where I could escape and try to heal. I didn't tell anyone where I was going except for the friend who helped me find the place. I needed a clean break, a fresh start. After moving in, I called Ella's parents to let them know I had moved out and that she needed to pick up her things from our old apartment. I also cut off all communication with my parents and most of my friends. I couldn't deal with the constant reminders of what I had lost. The first few days in the cabin were peaceful. I tried to settle into a routine, going to work, attending therapy sessions, and spending my evenings on the back deck, sipping whiskey and staring at the stars. It was a lonely existence, but I told myself it was what I needed. Then the strange things started happening. At first, it was just small, almost imperceptible changes. I'd come home to find lights turned on that I was sure I had turned off, or doors left open that I knew I had closed. I chalked it up to stress and my mind playing tricks on me. But as the days went by, the incidents grew more frequent and harder to ignore. One night, I woke up to a faint whisper. It was so soft I thought I had imagined it. But then it happened again the next night and the next. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and they seemed to be coming from outside the cabin. I tried to investigate, but every time I stepped outside, there was nothing there, just the stillness of the night. I recorded the sounds on my phone, hoping to catch some rational explanation. But when I played back the recordings, I heard a voice, clear and unmistakable, saying, "You deserve this." It was chilling, and I couldn't rationalize it away. Doors I knew I had closed would be open when I woke up. Objects would move from where I had left them. The feeling of being watched was constant, a prickling sensation at the back of my neck that I couldn't shake. I started sleeping with the lights on, but even that didn't help. The shadows seemed to move, twisting and stretching in the corners of my vision. The worst part was the dreams. They started about a week ago, vivid and terrifying. In the dreams, I was back in my old apartment, but it was dark and decayed. Elle and my parents were there, but their faces were twisted, monstrous. They taunted me, blamed me for everything, and no matter how much I screamed or fought, I couldn't escape. I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding, and the whispers were always there, waiting. I've tried to talk to my therapist about it, but how do you explain something like this without sounding crazy? She listens, offers suggestions, but nothing seems to make a difference. I've considered moving again, but the thought of packing up and leaving is too overwhelming right now. I don't know what's happening to me. Is this some form of punishment? Am I just losing my grip on reality? I keep hoping it will stop, that I'll wake up one day and it will all be over, but the days pass and nothing changes. The whispers, the shadows, the dreams, they're all still here. Thank you all for reading this far. I don't know what the future holds, but I'll keep fighting, keep pushing forward. Maybe one day I'll find peace again. Until then, I'll be here, sitting on my back deck, watching the shadows dance in the woods and hoping they don't come any closer. Update 1. Hey everyone, I'm sorry I haven't updated in a while. I wish I could say I'm doing great, but that would be a lie. Everything hits me in waves. I go from being numb to boiling with rage, and I haven't had a happy moment since I found out. Other than a few friends, I don't really have anyone IRL, especially since my family turned out to be, well, not what I thought. Quite a few things have happened since I posted last. It's been about a month, so this update will tell all that's been going on. After my last post, I decided to get the ball rolling on everything that needed to be done getting tested, finding a therapist, moving, and, of course, buying a new bed. I started by calling my doctor's office, telling them I needed to get tested and to refer me to a therapist. I had my first appointment with a therapist 2 weeks ago, and we decided to continue once a week. I also got tested last week, but it'll be another week or so until I get the results. Cross your fingers for me. I got in touch with a real estate agent friend of mine, and he sent me a ton of listings. I decided on a refurbished cabin on the outskirts of my city. I finished moving 2 days ago. The cabin is secluded, surrounded by dense woods, with a breathtaking view that seems almost surreal. When I finished moving, I called Elle's parents. When they picked up, I told them I moved out, and Elle has still yet to pick up her things. The landlord will start showing the apartment in a few days, so someone better pick her things up before the landlord throws them out. That must have lit a fire under them, because the next day my former landlord texted me, thanking me for getting the apartment emptied out. No one knows where I live now other than the friend who set me up with this place, so I know Elle or my parents won't be dropping by. The only downside is that I traded a 10-minute walk to work for a 45-minute drive. My phone has been blowing up with texts and calls from Elle, both my parents and some of my friends, but I have no interest in talking to anyone other than my therapist. At work, I've been a ghost. I go in, get my work done, and leave. On the rare occasion I have to talk to someone, I put on my fake smile and pretend everything is okay. My boss from my previous post has been trying to check in on me more, but I don't really tell her anything. I just tell her I appreciate it, but I'll be okay. The truth is, I don't know if I'll be okay. I get that time heals and all, but I feel like that's only relevant when you're dealing with one issue, not when you lose who you thought were the 3 closest people in your life all at once. A huge part of me died, and there's no chance of resuscitating it. The meetings with my therapist are going well, I suppose. I've never done therapy before, so I have no reference for what good therapy is. We get along all right, and she really seems genuine in wanting to help. The first session was us getting to know each other and delving into what brings me to her, nothing in depth, just me telling her what happened in my own words. The second session, we went a bit deeper. She asked me about the relationship I had with my parents. I told her up until now. It was great. We talked often and always communicated well when something was wrong. I grew up in a great home, but that all means nothing now. She asked why I cut my mother out of my life. I told her she said things to me I wouldn't say to someone I despised, and that there's no way she can come back from that. At the end of our last session, I gave her the link to my page on here so she can read more about how I feel and what's going on in my head. I feel like it's easier to type things out than it is to speak it. So, if you're reading this, hi Doc, for now, I'm still miserable. I thought I'd be okay by now, not necessarily happy, but okay. I know some of it is my own fault, not communicating with my friends. But when I think about responding to them, it just seems so exhausting. I know they all want to get together or come to my new place, but I just don't have the energy to be around them. Until I do, I'll work, go to my appointments, and sit on my back deck sipping on some bottom shelf whiskey, trying to enjoy this beautiful view. I haven't hunted since high school, so maybe I'll take that up again now that I can hunt from my back porch. I wish that were the end of it, but something else has been happening, something I can't quite explain. The first night in the cabin, I felt a sense of peace. The silence was comforting, a welcome change from the chaos of my recent life. But that silence didn't last. On the third night, I woke up to a faint whisper. At first, I thought it was a dream, but the whisper grew louder, more insistent. It seemed to be coming from outside, but when I stepped onto the porch, there was nothing, just the stillness of the night and the distant sound of crickets. The whispers continued every night after that. Sometimes they were clear enough to make out words, my name, fragments of sentences that made no sense. Other times, it was just a soft murmur, like a conversation I couldn't quite hear. I started to wonder if I was losing my mind, if the stress and isolation were getting to me. One night, I decided to record the sounds on my phone. When I played back the recording, my blood ran cold. There, in the background, was a voice clear and unmistakable saying, "You deserve this." I played it back over and over, trying to rationalize it, but there was no denying what I heard. Since then, other things have happened. Doors I know I closed are found open. Objects move from where I left them. The feeling of being watched is constant, a prickling at the back of my neck that I can't shake. I've started sleeping with the lights on, but even that doesn't help. The shadows seem to move, twisting and stretching in the corners of my vision. I've tried to talk to my therapist about it, but how do you explain something like this without sounding crazy? She listens, offers suggestions, but nothing seems to make a difference. I've considered moving again, but the thought of packing up and leaving is too overwhelming right now. The worst part is the dreams. They started about a week ago, vivid and terrifying. In the dreams, I'm back in my old apartment, but it's different, dark, decayed. Elle and my parents are there, but their faces are twisted, monstrous. They taunt me, blame me for everything, and no matter how much I scream or fight, I can't escape. I wake up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding, and the whispers are always there, waiting. I don't know what's happening to me. Is this some form of punishment? Am I just losing my grip on reality? I keep hoping it will stop, that I'll wake up one day and it will all be over, but the days pass and nothing changes. The whispers, the shadows, the dreams, they're all still here. Thank you all for reading this far. I don't know what the future holds, but I'll keep fighting, keep pushing forward. Maybe one day I'll find peace again. Until then, I'll be here, sitting on my back deck, watching the shadows dance in the woods and hoping they don't come any closer. Update 2. Hey everyone, it's been a year since my last post, and I feel like I owe you all an update. I've been through a lot, and things have changed in ways I never expected. Some good, some bad, and some ... well, I'm still not sure what to make of it. First, the good news. I've made some progress with my therapist. It took a lot of time and effort, but I've started to find some semblance of peace. I still have bad days where the anger and pain threaten to overwhelm me, but they're fewer and farther between. My therapist has been a rock, helping me navigate the murky waters of my emotions and guiding me toward healing. I've also reconnected with a few friends. It wasn't easy, but I realized that isolating myself was only making things worse. They've been understanding and supportive, and while I'm not ready to let them visit my cabin yet, we've met up a few times in town. It's been nice to have some human connection again. Now, for the not-so-good news. The strange occurrences at the cabin haven't stopped. If anything, they've intensified. The whispers, the shadows, the sense of being watched, it's all still there, and it's taken a toll on me. I've tried to rationalize it, to find a logical explanation, but nothing fits. I've stopped talking about it with my therapist because, frankly, I think she's starting to think I'm losing it. A few months ago, I decided to set up cameras around the cabin. I wanted to see if I could capture any evidence of what was happening. The footage is unsettling, to say the least. Shadows moving in ways they shouldn't, objects shifting when there's no one around. And the whispers sometimes, the audio picks up faint voices saying things I can't quite make out. It's like something is toying with me, pushing me to the brink. One night, I woke up to find a message scratched into the wall above my bed. "Leave now." It was so clear, so deliberate, that it sent chills down my spine. I don't know who or what is doing this, but it's not just in my head. I've considered leaving the cabin, but something keeps holding me back. Maybe it's stubbornness, or maybe it's the fear that whatever this is will follow me. The dreams have also continued. They're less frequent now, but when they do come, they're more vivid and terrifying than ever. I'm always back in that decayed version of my old apartment, always being taunted and blamed by monstrous versions of Elle and my parents. I wake up feeling drained, as if I've been running a marathon in my sleep. The dreams linger, the images burned into my mind long after I wake. I've done some research into the history of the cabin and the land it's on, hoping to find some explanation. There's nothing particularly unusual about it, no tragic events, no rumors of hauntings, it's just an ordinary cabin in the woods. But there's something here, something I can't explain, and it's not going away. A few weeks ago, I had a visit from Elle. She somehow found out where I was living and showed up unannounced. She looked different, tired, worn down. She apologized for everything, said she was trying to make amends and wanted to talk. I didn't let her inside, but we spoke on the porch. She seemed genuinely remorseful, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. Not yet, anyway. As she was leaving, she said, "Something that's been haunting me since, I've been having nightmares, too. So that's where I am, stuck in a cabin that feels more like a prison, haunted by things I can't explain, and trying to piece my life back together one day at a time. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm determined to keep fighting. I won't let whatever this is break me. Thank you all for sticking with me through this. Your support means more than you know. I'll keep you updated as things progress. Maybe one day, I'll find the answers I'm looking for. Until then, I'll be here, watching the shadows and listening to the whispers, hoping for a better tomorrow. Stay safe, everyone." Update 2. Hey everyone, it's been another few months since my last update, and things have taken an even stranger turn. I know some of you might think I'm losing it, but I need to get this out there. Maybe someone can help me make sense of it all. After LS visit, I couldn't shake the feeling that her words held more weight than I initially thought. Her mention of having nightmares to it's been gnawing at me. I decided to reach out to her, something I never thought I'd do. I needed to know if her experiences were anything like mine. We met at a neutral spot, a quiet cafe in town. She looked as haunted as I felt. Elle told me that since our separation, she's been having vivid, terrifying nightmares. In her dreams, she's in a place that's decayed and dark, much like the ones I've described. There are shadowy figures, distorted versions of people she knows, taunting and blaming her. It was eerie how closely her descriptions matched mine. We both sat there, stunned into silence, realizing that whatever this is, it's not confined to just me. We talked for hours, sharing our experiences. Elle mentioned that strange things had started happening around her, to objects moving on their own, whispers in the night. She had also found messages scratched into her walls, telling her to leave. It felt like our lives were being manipulated by some unseen force, and the more we compared notes, the more convinced we became that something was very wrong. I decided to take a more proactive approach. I reached out to a local historian, hoping to uncover anything about the cabin and the land that might explain what was happening. What I found was both unsettling and baffling. The land had changed hands many times over the centuries, but there were no records of any tragic events or hauntings. However, there were numerous mentions of people leaving the area suddenly, abandoning their homes without explanation. One entry in particular caught my eye, a journal from a man who lived in the area in the early 1900s. He wrote about strange occurrences, whispers in the night, and a feeling of being watched. His descriptions mirrored my own experiences almost exactly. He and his family eventually left, disappearing without a trace. It felt like history was repeating itself, and I was caught in the middle of it. Back at the cabin, the activity escalated. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and the shadows seemed to take on a life of their own. One night, I woke to find my furniture rearranged in bizarre patterns, as if some unseen force was trying to send a message. The message scratched into the wall above my bed had changed. It now read, "You can't escape." The dreams intensified, too. They were more vivid, more real. I began to dread falling asleep, knowing what awaited me. In one particularly horrifying dream, I was trapped in a room with no doors or windows, the walls closing in on me. The twisted versions of Elle and my parents stood outside, watching, their faces contorted with malicious glee. I woke up gasping for breath, my heart pounding, and the whispers were there, louder than ever. I started to notice something else, too, a presence. It felt like someone or something was always with me, just out of sight. I would catch glimpses of movement out of the corner of my eye, but when I turned to look, there was nothing there. It felt like the very air around me was charged with a sinister energy. In my desperation, I reached out to my therapist again, finally opening up about the extent of what was happening. She listened patiently, her concern evident. She suggested that the stress and trauma might be manifesting in these experiences, that my mind was creating these horrors as a way to cope. But even she seemed unsure, as if the things I described were too bizarre to be merely psychological. One night, things came to a head. I was sitting on my back deck, trying to enjoy the view and calm my racing thoughts. The forest was eerily silent, the only sound the distant rustle of leaves. Then, out of nowhere, the whispers started again, but this time they were louder than ever. They seemed to be coming from all around me, surrounding me, closing in. I stood up, heart pounding, and shouted for them to stop. The whispers ceased abruptly, leaving an oppressive silence in their wake. For a moment, I thought it was over, but then I saw it. A figure, standing at the edge of the forest, barely visible in the darkness. It was tall, with long, spindly limbs and eyes that seemed to glow with an unnatural light. I froze, unable to move or even breathe. The figure just stood there, watching me. Then, slowly, it raised a hand and pointed directly at me. A wave of cold fear washed over me, and I stumbled back into the cabin, slamming the door shut behind me. I could still feel its gaze through the walls, a piercing, malevolent presence that seemed to penetrate my very soul. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I'm on the edge of losing my mind. Elle and I have been talking more, trying to support each other through this, but it's not enough. Whatever this is, it's getting stronger, and I don't know how much more I can take. I'm reaching out to you all, hoping someone out there has answers. Has anyone experienced anything like this? What did you do? How did you make it stop? I need help. We need help. Thank you for reading and for your continued support. Please, if you have any ideas or advice, share them. I'm not sure how much longer I can keep this up. Stay safe, everyone. The final update. Hey everyone, this will be my last post. Things have reached a point where I don't know what else to do, and I feel like I need to get this out there before. Well, before something happens, thank you all for your support over these past months. It's meant more than you know. After my last update, things escalated quickly. The presence, the whispers, the shadows, they all intensified. I felt like I was living in a nightmare, constantly on edge, waiting for the next inexplicable event to occur. Elle and I stayed in touch, sharing our experiences and trying to make sense of it all, but neither of us had any answers. The figure at the edge of the forest became a regular sight. It would stand there, watching, always pointing. No matter what time of day or night, if I looked out the window, it was there. I stopped going outside, stopped sitting on the deck. I felt trapped, a prisoner in my own home. One night, the whispers grew so loud I couldn't think. They were everywhere, filling the cabin with their sinister hiss. I could barely make out the words, but one phrase kept repeating. It's time. I tried to drown them out, blasting music, shouting, anything to silence them, but it was no use. They were in my head, in my bones. Then, the figure stepped out of the forest. I watched in horror as it moved closer, its movements slow and deliberate. It stopped just outside the cabin, its glowing eyes boring into me. I couldn't move, couldn't look away. The whispers reached a crescendo, a deafening roar, and the figure raised its hand, pointing at me once more. Suddenly, the lights in the cabin flickered and went out. I was plunged into darkness, the only illumination coming from the figure outside. I fumbled for my phone, desperate for some light, some connection to the outside world. When I turned it on, the screen was filled with messages, hundreds of them all saying the same thing: you can't escape. I knew I had to get out. I grabbed my keys and bolted for the door, but as soon as I stepped outside, the whispers stopped. The silence was even more terrifying. The figure was gone, but I could feel its presence closer than ever. I ran to my car, jumped in, and started driving, not knowing where to go, just needing to get away. As I drove, the air grew thick, oppressive. The road seemed to stretch on forever, the trees on either side closing in. My phone buzzed incessantly, the same message over and over. I tried calling Elle, but the call wouldn't go through. It was as if something was interfering, keeping me isolated. I drove for hours, or maybe it was minutes, I couldn't tell. Time seemed to lose all meaning. Eventually, I found myself back at the cabin. No matter which direction I took, I always ended up back there. It was like the forest was a maze, and I was its captive. Exhausted and terrified, I stumbled back inside. The whispers had started again, but now they were clearer, almost conversational. They spoke of my fears, my regrets, my failures. They knew everything about me, every secret, every doubt. I felt exposed, vulnerable. I don't know how long I sat there, listening, paralyzed by fear. Then, in a moment of clarity, I decided to confront it. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped back outside, determined to face whatever this was. The figure was there, waiting. I walked toward it, my legs trembling, the flashlight beam wavering. As I got closer, I saw its face, my face. It was like looking into a twisted, nightmarish mirror. The figure smiled, a cold, cruel smile, and spoke in my voice. You are me, and I am you. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. This presence, these horrors, they were all a manifestation of my own guilt, my own pain. I had been running from myself, and now there was nowhere left to run. I don't remember what happened next. I woke up inside the cabin, the sun shining through the windows. The whispers were gone, the figure nowhere to be seen. It felt like waking from a long, terrible dream, but the scars were still there, raw and painful. I've decided to leave the cabin for good. I'm packing up what little I have and moving far away. Maybe a change of scenery will help, maybe not. But I can't stay here anymore. The memories are too much, the pain too deep. To anyone reading this, thank you for listening, for offering support and advice. I don't know what the future holds, but I hope that by leaving this place, I can find some measure of peace. If you're going through something similar, know that you're not alone. And sometimes facing your fears is the only way to move forward. Goodbye and stay safe.